Hey everybody, welcome to KTech Pulse. Thrilled to have everybody here. I've got my Rocky Top sign in the background. Let's see if you all can see the shirt. Keep Knoxville connected. This is a shirt actually designed by University of Tennessee students in a class run by Annika Abel, the wife of Alex Abel, who runs the great lunch pool platform that we're using today for this event. And sales at knoxwear.com go to United Way. So pretty cool thing. Thrilled to be wearing it. Thank you to Alex and the whole team at Lunch Pool for making this possible. I'm Brandon Bruce. I'm a co-founder and board member of the Knoxville Technology Council. Big thank you to the Innovate 65 Alliance and the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center for partnering with us on this event. Couldn't have done it without you all. Really thrilled to be partnering on this great event this year. Huge thanks to Verizon and Google Cloud for being our sponsors, as well as our keynotes. We're really looking forward to digging into 5G and to Google Cloud here in a few minutes. Thank you to the members of the KTech board, also to our founding and diamond members, our gold members, our startup members. Many of you are here today, and for all of you that are new to KTech, thanks for joining us for KTech Pulse. It's gonna be a fantastic event. We're excited to have you here. A few quick exciting news items to share from just the last couple days. Number one, KTech swag bags, which many of you ordered, are en route and will be ready to pick up from the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center downtown on Market Square, as well as from Rhoda for Moss's office in West Knoxville next week. So you'll be getting an email about that. If you're a KTech member and you check the box to get a swag bag for the event today, you'll be able to pick it up from either location, wherever is most convenient for you. Number two, and many of you probably saw this news item on social networks, congratulations to University of Tennessee. It was just named an Association of Public Land-Grant Universities Innovation and Economic Prosperity Institution. KTech board member Lynn Youngs was one of the leaders in that effort. I got to participate in the process on behalf of KTech and several organizations, so thrilled for UT at that designation. It's a really big deal, and it joins a lot of other top universities around the country with that designation. Welcome to all the members of KTech who are here. Welcome to new members that have just recently joined us, including Wow Internet, Amazon, and many others. We're thrilled to have you as part of the KTech network. It's a great time to join KTech. This is the pitch, right? We hope you have a great event today. We've got two awesome events coming up between now and the end of the year, November 18th. So 6 days away, we've got How to Run a Hackathon at Your Company. It's an all-star panel, so if you've ever thought about kind of unleashing the innovative powers of your developers, engineers, and your entire team internally in a hackathon, this is an event to come to, so we hope you'll join us for that. And then in December, on the 16th, just in time for the holidays, we're gonna have a panel talk about gadgets and gear and hardware. So join us for that one to kind of hear about the latest and greatest in the tech world. Check all those out. Many of you got the tickets through our website. If you haven't been to it yet, knoxtech.org. You can register for all those events. Click on the Become a Member link to learn more about joining us as a full member. We've got a lot of exciting things planned for next year that we'll be talking about toward the end of today's program. First and foremost, welcome again to KTech Pulse. We're gonna start with a highlight reel of our first year. So feel free to go to full screen, crank up the volume a little bit. Big thank you to Nick Hollinsby at Discovery for knocking out this awesome video. Let's go ahead and roll the video.
KTech is here, and we're here to support the technology community in Knoxville and grow it as best we can.
We sold out every in-person event that we held, and then we quickly pivoted to virtual.
With this new tech, you know, that people were at tables virtually, and we just hit a home run with that thing. So exciting.
I'm really proud of KTech for stepping up in the Knoxville area and being that facilitator to bring people together regardless of what the circumstance happens to be.
So I think it's worth pointing out two highlight events. Our Politicode event, where students in K-12 taught elected officials how to code. We were a finalist for a national award for that event. And also the Google Cloud Hero event that we helped sponsor with University of Tennessee. We launched a jobs board that connects talent with opportunities at member companies. We launched a volunteer board that connects a lot of technical talent with nonprofits.
We had a really great launch event back in February. At that time, we focused on our mission to really provide women in the technology space the ability to network, to continue to educate themselves, and to find opportunities to give back to our community.
We now know what we can do outside the box. Now I want to see if we can expand that to greater heights as we move forward with KTech.
Fantastic. I love the video. Thanks again, Nick, and for everybody that worked on that. It's been a huge 2020. It's been a tumultuous year, obviously, for everybody, but a great year for KTech and for all of you who have made it a great year as members, as panelists, as speakers, as participants. And so it was fun to be able to put together that montage and try to capture some of the energy and excitement that we had coming out of the big launch event last fall at Jewelry Television, and then all the things that have happened over the next 12 months since then. Next, we're going to kick off. We're going to talk with Verizon about 5G and the future of everything. I'm super excited to learn more because this is going to be a big deal for Knoxville. It's a big deal for the world. It's going to be a big deal for us and our community. First things first, let's kick it off with the Verizon video, and then we'll do a live Q&A. And I'll mention quickly before we get to that is when we do that Q&A, I'll be asking a series of questions. Please do use the Q&A tab in Lunch Pool. So as you have questions for Verizon, who I'll be talking with next, and then after that for Google Cloud, please type in the questions in Q&A, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. And certainly any that we don't get to, we'll talk about in the networking session at the end of the program. So first things first, let's roll the Verizon video, please.
What is 5G? For most people, 5G means faster. You might have heard the example about how fast you can download a movie, but there's more to it than that. 5G stands for fifth generation, the next evolution of wireless technology, and it represents a massive step forward that will revolutionize entire industries. But not all 5G is the same. In fact, most of what's advertised as 5G is only slightly faster than current 4G offerings. But with Verizon 5G Ultra Wideband, we've built something completely different. Our 5G runs on radio frequencies, just like 4G, but at a higher frequency known as millimeter wave, and thanks to our spectrum assets, at a much larger bandwidth. It's the fastest 5G anywhere in the world, with more speed, more capacity, and lower latency than traditional 4G. All that translates into experiences even closer to real time, which means it can do things like bring augmented, virtual, and extended reality vividly to life for consumers. Increase speed and accuracy for all types of industries, like healthcare and smart manufacturing, and support massive IoT deployments that will change how we live, work, and play. And just like you've heard a lot about 5G, you may also have heard about something called edge computing. Multi-access edge computing, or MEC for short, takes the burden of computing power and related infrastructure off the consumer's device and out of the business's office, and puts it all in the cloud. But instead of that cloud server being hundreds or even thousands of miles away, MEC brings the computing power as close to the end user as possible, or as one might say, right to the edge of the network. The end result is that consumers and businesses get access to cutting-edge processing power without constantly having to upgrade systems, download applications, or invest in expensive equipment. And the close proximity at which the edge computing is being performed means the data has a shorter round trip, which makes for near instantaneous responses. There are other benefits too. By offloading the processing burden from the end device, you open the door to a number of exciting possibilities on that front, like new form factors, better battery life, and even lower cost options. When you put all that computing power at the edge of the network you're using matters more than ever. To get the most out of MEC, you need 5G. For its massive increases in speed and number of supported devices and dramatically reduced latency. Think of it this way. If MEC is the rocket, then our 5G ultra-wideband is the rocket fuel. Our 5G ultra-wideband network provides the perfect platform to harness the full potential of edge computing. We've partnered with Amazon Web Services to bring our 5G Edge mobile edge compute platform to developers everywhere. Across all our strategic partnerships, at our 5G labs, and through all our 5G innovation programs, we're enabling the next generation of innovators to push the limits of 5G and edge computing. Here are just some of the use cases that are currently in development. Augmented commerce, real-time quality control, AI-assisted healthcare, public safety, drone automation and inspection, online and mobile gaming, and autonomous vehicles. And that's just a start. Every day, the demand for real-time enterprise keeps growing, and 5G ultra-wideband and edge computing will be there to meet it.
Awesome. I love it. It's my pleasure to welcome Majid Khan. He's the Managing Director of Strategy and Business Development for Network Engineering and Technology at Verizon. So he leads Verizon's corporate strategy, deal development, negotiations, partnerships with cities and municipalities like Knoxville at a national level. So he works closely with City of Knoxville, as well as hundreds of other municipalities around the country to drive opportunities for economic development, business transformation, with wireless 5G that we just got introduced to, and smart cities innovation. Majid, thanks for being here. Thanks for sponsoring. Thanks for getting us excited about 5G. I know you've been doing a lot of work in Knoxville lately. So what changes are happening to the network?
Yeah, great to be with you, Brandon, and KTech and Innovates 865 for having Verizon join this event. Super excited to be here. We've been doing a lot of work, right, in and around the city of Knoxville, right? So when you really think about it, kind of look at it, and you saw some of that stuff in the video as well. So Verizon is actually very active, working very closely with the local entities in the city of Knoxville. Starts with the fiber. When you really think about it, what are we working on? There are three main things, right? And I'll touch upon some of the things you may have kind of heard it in that 3-minute video. You're going to say, what the hell, right? So fiber, we're deploying tons of fiber in locally in city of Knoxville. 2 is you heard about the millimeter wave spectrum, which is key. And then the third one is a lot of assets, right? So meaning when you see equipment, where's those antennas? Where's that radio equipment being installed? So there are really 3-pronged effort that we have actually national level, but specifically to the Knoxville market, and very busy, very excited about what Verizon is doing in the entire state of Tennessee and specifically in the city of Knoxville. So that's kind of very super high level. And really, what does that mean? That is really, we took upon this initiative about 3 years ago. We said, we are going to make major investment in several markets. And that requires us to kind of taking a ground up approach. Look at where we have gaps, where we need to increase our capacity, where we need to build our next generation network. And we basically decided that we are going to build the fastest ultra wideband. You heard the term called millimeter wave. And I'll try to explain that along the way as to what that means, just so folks get a little bit of better idea why when we say not every 5G is the same. There are differences, there are nuances, and happy to share that with you as well.
So when you say not every 5G is the same, is it certain? Sometimes people are saying 5G just meaning this is our 5th generation, but then there's more of a definition that has to do with the technology itself and the speeds that you can achieve and the new applications that are made possible by it.
Yeah. So let's just talk about it for maybe a few seconds. So you have 3 kind of flavors of 5G. There's the low band, there's the mid band, and there's the ultra wideband, or we call it a millimeter wave. And the best way to look at it is, within Verizon, we call it the 8 currencies, but I'll touch upon 2 very important pieces. One is what we call the data speeds, the bandwidth. And then the second one is what we call the latency. Latency is, in simple terms, is basically for a data packet to kind of have a round trip. How long does it take for that data packet to go back and forth? That's one way to do that. Another way to do that is from the time that a user initiates a request to gain access to an app, what is that response time? That's a couple of ways that you can look at latency. So when you're in a ultra wideband spectrum, meaning a 28 gigahertz, greater than 28 gigahertz, 39 gigahertz frequency spectrum, you are gaining that super high, greater than a gig bits per second bandwidth, and those super low latencies. That's the main difference. Now, you can still call it a 5G when you are in low bandwidth, high latency environment because you're still operating in that radio frequency, but it's not the same. In a lot of ways, when we say it's a low band 5G, you're kind of operating in a 4G world for that matter. But in a 5G world, super high speeds, low latencies. And why is that important? It is because when you're talking about specifically real-time transactions, right? You saw some examples where drone management or, up and coming, especially COVID has taught us a lot, right? This remote consultation, that real-time transaction that needs to happen. That's what 5G will enable. So kind of a little bit about flavors of 5G, but want to make sure that the millimeter wave is what Verizon conscientiously decided that we are going to be playing in that specific space. What does that mean? That also means that you need more. You got to get closer to where the community is, where the users are, because it requires the signal the signal does not travel as fast. So you got to put assets closer to where the users are. So that's why when you see out there in the city of Knoxville, you're going to see a bunch of equipment going up on a street light is because we're deploying fiber and 5G equipment out there to serve the masses through that technology.
And then once those antennas are up on the light poles, right, on the towers, and the fiber is in place, what does it mean for the end user? So, all of us on the call have probably multiple devices surrounding us right now, at a minimum, a cell phone on our desk. Businesses on the call, right, have sometimes hundreds or thousands of devices out to their employees. Will they need to upgrade equipment? Will it just happen automatically? It'll kick in and they'll notice, less latency, higher speeds?
Yeah, so think about it this way. So absolutely the chipsets are going to be needed, right? So you hear about the 5G phones are coming out. Apple just launched, their iPhone 12, 5G iPhone 12, right? So yes, to support 5G, you're going to need it. But then it's more than the phone. I want to make sure that folks kind of get it, that it's not just about getting another iPhone or another Samsung or whatever flavor of phone that is out there. It is really about that connected system, right? So if you're looking at transportation vertical, as an example, or autonomous vehicles, there's stuff that is happening in the public domain that will require those super ultra fast bandwidth and the lowest latency, right? So that would be one example where a lot of agencies, whether government agencies or private entities that are looking for those transportation, autonomous vehicle type use cases, they'll benefit from a 5G deployment. Another use case that I'll say is about real-time transactions or robotic consultation, right? Where the doctors, as an example, they need to do some sort of a robotic consultation surgery type. They're going to be able to leverage the 5G because of the underlying, currencies that are tied to the 5G, as an example. There's the other element that I also want to touch upon when you're deploying fiber. As much as fiber that is going in to light up those small cells, we call it the small equipment facilities, they're also being deployed to serve the small, medium business customers in the future, right? Because once you build it, it's kind of like if you build it, they'll come. So we know that our customers need choices. They're looking for choices. So how do we provide that choice? By bringing this massive fiber deployment, which is really the common denominator. We're going to be able to serve the enterprises and small, medium business customers along with it. You guys are hearing about 5G home service a lot, right? That Verizon has launched 5G home, right? Folks on the East Coast, they know about a fiber to the home service, but we decided that in order high-speed internet services, we are going to be playing in the 5G home, meaning wirelessly providing that high bandwidth services to the customers. So that is also up and coming in several markets. And we've already made some announcement in several key markets, and more to come on that.
Yeah, I think that aspect of it is really exciting because I tend to think about, okay, whether it's 4G or LTE or 5G, like this is something for my phone, which is super great. We were talking at the table before we started, right? Like when I drive to Nashville or land in Chicago or New York, all of a sudden it switches to 5G. And I'm like, oh yeah, the email does seem to be downloading faster and I can watch the video. It starts a little bit quicker, runs smoother. But this ability to basically be an internet service provider, wireless first. So you're talking about 5G to the home. I imagine there could be a future where it's 5G to the business. I mean, I've heard about 5G speeds going upwards of 10 gigs. What sort of speeds do you anticipate, and sort of how much work does it take to get up to that kind of top end speed, or will it be sort of a gradual increase over time?
Yeah, so we launched 5G Home as an example in almost 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And already we're seeing speeds that are actually greater than 2 gigabits per second. So if you've got internet access today, right, from whether, whoever is your internet provider is, you're probably not getting that kind of a speed, for most part. You're definitely, so we're pushing those envelopes already out there. The second one is when you think about, you may have heard what we call the mobile edge compute. Why is that important? Especially, a lot of customers, a lot of folks that are actually on this event. Multi-services edge compute is basically us providing an ability, a platform that is going to be kind of residing in our network. So just like I'm deploying equipment to serve your phones and mobile devices, we are also basically saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool, instead of you trying to move your workloads from your office or from your mobile devices to a cloud that sits, hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away, wouldn't it be cool that if I can actually bring that platform closer to where the users are? So you're going to hear a lot about multi-services edge compute. We call it the MEC. You're going to hear terms like mobile edge compute. What does that mean? Edge basically means that where the users are. We are bringing the platform where the users are. And so we announced our partnership recently with Amazon, right, for AWS services. What that basically means that we're going to be working with several platform providers, hosting that platform within our same places where we are serving our customers for the mobile phone. We're going to be able to house those workloads that our users need, right? That may be Amazon customers or Google's customers or Microsoft customers today. They're going to be basically get closer to. So that's another example of what we are doing at a national level with mobile edge computing. So those are some use cases that I wanted to make sure that that's what 5G and how that will benefit.
I think you're starting to touch on it too, but I'll ask about it directly. IoT, Internet of Things. I think I've read a number of articles that say, hey, 5G, like we've been talking about Internet of Things, there's some cool existing applications, and 5G just blows it wide open in terms of the possibilities, because now you've got high speed available to all these different locations. What sort of IoT applications are you all seeing now where you have 5G, and what do you envision going forward?
So there's been a tremendous amount of dialogue on the smart city side of the house, right? I'll use some examples. And it's not like this, you weren't having those discussions during 4G environment. You were, right? Because the 4G chipsets were already being designed to accommodate some of those IoT type sensors. But I'll give you an example. Like there's been a lot of discussions with power companies that are interested in, hey, if you're going to go in and touch a street light, is there an opportunity to make those poles smart? Why is that important? The reason it's important is because people like us, with our families that are walking around the neighborhood, suddenly it will have that public safety element, right? Lighting is no longer a lighting. It is actually a fundamental platform that provides public safety to our families. So if you're walking around having a sensor on the street light where you may have, 5G equipment already on it, providing that sensing capability so that the light comes on, light goes off. If there's traffic in the vicinity, if there are people walking around, that gives you. So that's one example where there's a lot of conversation with power companies, with government entities that are looking at the smart city example. I mentioned traffic data. Transportation, it's got definitely a lot of use cases that are coming up where, multimodal junctions are being created, right? How do you provide that sort of a platform for autonomous vehicle? That's another use case. Drone management. Drone management, obviously, you need some sort of a network connectivity, right? And so how do you provide that, right? You're already seeing several marketplaces that are basically going to use the drone management function for e-commerce type stuff, right? Or delivering, packages, right? So you're going to need that network from that element perspective. So there's some of those examples that I want to make sure that are up and coming within the IoT space.
Now, obviously, this is a big question, right? It's a huge project, very capital intensive, takes a lot of time. Do you have a sense? Do you have a ballpark on when we'll be able to look down at the phone and there'll be a day in which it switches over and says, hey, you're on 5G? And maybe you'll announce that this is coming before, like, hey, you were a week away, keep an eye on your phone, or maybe it's just something that's just going to happen. When are you all, what's a good ballpark? When should we look for that?
Yeah, so great question. So we continue to make announcements, right? We're continuing to launch markets. You've already seen in public domain where we've got 5G in 55 markets, right? And just if you walk around, just the sheer amount of work that is happening in the city of Knoxville, as an example, you'll see there's fiber being put in, there's nodes already put in. And so I want to say soon. And without giving you a specific date, you're close. You're very close, because we've been doing this thing. We were the first in 2018, right? First, we had some trial markets. Then we launched 5G Home. Then we said, okay, here's our 30 markets. You guys heard from our CEO, Hans Vestberg. And now we're sitting at about 55, right? And the work doesn't stop. Knoxville state of Tennessee is part of our plan, and we're working on it as we speak. So, and if you walk around, if you see a Verizon truck or some equipment being installed, it's coming to your town pretty soon. So I don't want to give you a date, but I'll say it's soon.
For those communities, the 55 that you've rolled out to already, businesses and consumers in those markets, obviously some of them, the phones are just going to switch over and start saying 5G. But if they wanted 5G at home, or even 5G to serve small business, even a mid-size or enterprise-sized business, are they needing different routers? You mentioned chipsets earlier. But what's sort of on the checklist of things that people typically want or need when 5G comes to their community?
So let's talk about it, right? So it's almost, when you look at the way we are launching it, you have 5G, I call it the mobility, right? That is the first and foremost use case, meaning your mobile devices. That's the easiest one. I say easy, not easy to implement, but that is, everybody sees it, everybody sees it. So that's one thing. So obviously you need 5G phones for that. But when it comes to 5G home, I'll give you, as an example, Houston or Indianapolis, right, for that matter, or city of Chicago, right? Those are some cities where we launched. So imagine if you've got equipment mounted on the nearest street light, okay? That is Verizon equipment. Assets could be Verizon owned, could be city owned, could be, KUB owned, right? Assets that we're going to put on equipment. The user will be basically given a 5G modem, right? That you got to mount on outside your house or something. Part of that service offering is also then, now how do you extend that signal? So now you've got the signal on the outskirts of your building, as an example. Now inside, basically, just like today, when you have internet service coming to your house or garage, somebody brings that cable inside the house. Similar in a 5G world. Once that 5G modem is there, then we can basically give you a connection inside the house that you can take it to the router. Now you have your Wi-Fi. Just like, so all your smart devices, all the sensors that you have inside the house, your router, Wi-Fi router, will basically connect to your Wi-Fi router, connect to the 5G modem, back out to the world. That's kind of the simplest way. So your devices at the edge were treated just like it was looking for a Wi-Fi SSID.
Awesome. Now you're my friends here. Let's do a lightning round of some of the Q&A that's come in from the other techies in the crowd. So one, are there techniques you guys are implementing to combat high penetration loss that EHF frequencies are prone to? Does that make sense?
You kind of blanked out a little bit. Brandon, can you repeat your question? You blanked out a little bit. Sorry.
Techniques that you all are implementing to combat high penetration loss that EHF frequencies are prone to?
Yeah, so great question, right? So this is exactly what I meant at the beginning. When you And without getting into too technical detail, but when you're operating in a high frequency environment, like a 28 gigahertz, so simple math is higher the frequency, right, greater the bandwidth. But then the reverse of it is then you lose the actual distance that that it can penetrate, right? So on one hand, you've got this massive amount of bandwidth that is coming in, low latency. So it depends on the application, it's needed. But then when you flip into the other elements, right, where you got to carry the signal farther, that's when you start to get into the mid band and the low band frequencies, especially, right? So if you go back, I said there are three flavors: the low band, the mid band, and the high band. So depending on which application you have, you may have to deploy all three flavors so that you gain that penetration that somebody's referring to. Like, how do you carry the signal farthest, right? So you're going to have to operate in those frequency bands. But if it all depends on what the application is and how we're going to deploy. So we've got some activities going on without really talking about that here in an open forum, but I just want to make sure that low, mid, and high frequency, in mid and low frequency bands, you get the signal farther, but there's a trade-off. The trade-off is, yes, the signal goes farther, but now you're losing the bandwidth and your latency is going up. So it depends on which one you really need.
Gotcha.
Hopefully that answers.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of combine two questions because they're somewhat related. So one question has to do with, hey, how does this compare with 5G from other major providers? The questioner says, what about AT&T? The question I'm going to combine it with is, are there interoperability sort of plans between the major providers? In other words, is it relatively straightforward to go from one network to another and have similar 5G service, or is it basically separate networks altogether?
Yeah, so I think the frequency is different, right? So I'll touch upon, without naming anybody, right? So you're going to hear somebody's got a 5G nationwide. Well, that basically means that they are actually operating in a low frequency environment, which means that the signal will go farther, but it will not have highest bandwidth that I'm talking about, the greater than a gigabits per second, and it will have higher latency also. So really the question becomes, yes, you may have a signal traversing longer distances, but you're compromising, depending on the application. In terms of interoperability, right, just like with anything, your equipment is tuned to operate in a certain frequency. So if you switch from one to the other, then you're going to have to make those adjustments as well. And carriers do that, right? Carriers know how to do that so that the user does not have to feel the pain. It's all done in the network for that.
Gotcha. Is Verizon also working on any PLTE integrations or offerings, or is that totally separate?
PLTE, I'm assuming that's private LTE?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading the question straight ahead, so I'm deferring to you all as experts.
Yeah, the answer is yes. The answer is yes, and I'm kind of, if the question is, because P could be public or private, but I'll just assume it was a question about private LTE, then yes, we are working on it, and not can get into too many details, but definitely we're working on it.
I know we talked about light poles before. This question has to do with sort of the big time and capital investment. So their understanding is for every macro site, there needs to be like 100 microsites to achieve similar coverage. How does Verizon physically accomplish this? How do you get that many microsites set up?
It really requires so it's a great question, actually. So when we talk about this high frequency millimeter wave, it also requires us to put more assets in what we call the public right of way. So if you're in the city of Knoxville, right? So it really requires that collaboration with KUB, with the mayor's office, to be honest with you, because those are the people, right? The public works department, the DOTs of the world, they have to process those applications. So yes, more assets mean more work, and more work means high volumes, which means high permitting applications, right? So you gotta be very well coordinated. You have to work very closely with the local officials, and I want to give credit to the mayor. The current and the former mayor, both were super helpful, right? They see this investment in technology as the key driver. So extremely welcoming. The departments are working well with the technology companies, specifically Verizon, And this is not possible. I just want to make sure this will not be possible without that interaction, without that collaboration that the city itself is offering to bring this infrastructure, right? But yes, I mean, yeah, you're going to need more assets in the right of way. One thing we try to do is, this is again, aesthetics concerns, community concerns. We try to leverage existing assets wherever we can, okay? But the technology and the planning, the radio frequency planning that we have to do does require us to put more assets. Not all the time, but it does require you. So in that instance, you got to communicate early, you got to communicate more, you got to educate people as to why something is being done. Because on one hand, yes, it's technology, but it's also, you're talking the human element aspect of it, right? So it really requires that collaboration with the greater communities. And then I think events like this is super, super awesome, because this is where you get to talk about it, you get to educate people, you get to take questions, take feedback from folks, and go back and then see how we can do better collectively as an industry.
You heard it here first. The KTech Webmaster is putting that quote on the homepage as we speak. Majid from Verizon said this is super. Take it. That's a good high note to end on, and thank you for the kudos to our local municipal government officials for being helpful, and we're so glad that you all are here. Thanks, Majid, for being here, for sponsoring the event. Thanks to O'Rourke from Verizon, who I know is here with us in the audience. Thanks to Courtney Piper and her team and the Innovate 6.5 Alliance for helping to line this up in partnership with KTech. And yeah, we look forward to doing more Q&A at the networking tables after. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
And next up, we are going to show another video. This one is a kickoff to the conversation we're going to have with Alberto about Google Cloud. So let's go ahead and roll the video about Google Cloud. And same as before, keep the Q&A coming for Google Cloud. For any that we may not have gotten to, for Verizon, Majid will be sticking around for the networking session after. So definitely find him at a table, ask your questions there, and we can even do some follow-up by emails after. First, let's roll the Google Cloud video. Thank you.
Audio is a really powerful medium because it's so personal and engaged to who you are.
It is the most intimate and the most connecting medium. And what we're seeing today is that there's this new technological revolution taking place, and that opens up a whole new interest and explosion of audio.
Spotify is definitely more than just a music company these days. Recently, we expanded very substantially into podcasts.
I'm Alex Bloomberg, and this is Without Fail.
Our mission at Spotify is to connect 1 million creators with 1 billion fans. So that's very exciting. It's also a huge challenge.
The problem is bigger than just the number of fans that we have. It's also the amount of content that we have.
We have a huge catalog, 130 million audio files.
The scale is growing so fast. At peak, we're seeing 8 million events per second, 500 billion events per day.
Data is basically the core of running our business, and if we're not able to get the latest insights about our users, we're not able to see the key statistics about our business, that's a problem.
We were reaching the sort of tipping point where the current system wouldn't scale anymore.
And that's where Google Cloud comes in. Google Cloud takes care of a lot of the complexity of our business.
We don't need to worry about the infrastructure. We don't need to worry about all the details that aren't core to our product. It's intuitive, and it makes scaling effortless.
And that frees us up to do Spotify-specific things. Being creative, being innovative, experiment faster, and get results way faster.
Google understands engineering culture, and they've really brought that to the cloud platform.
It's been a massive improvement in our ability to make our employees at Spotify more productive.
In addition, I think one of the most powerful parts of our partnership has been our engineers and Google engineers sitting together in the same room to solve some of our most difficult problems.
Because they're able to access petabytes worth of data at their fingertips very simply.
Moving to Google Cloud and their platform really freed us up to accelerate our development, and we kind of skyrocketed.
It basically unlocked infinite capacity.
Building the audio network of the future, it takes that intimate connection really to the next level, and that we believe will help us lock additional innovation in the audio space.
We have a very strong belief that we can together with Google, build the best cloud for us.
Fantastic. Great video. I actually took the the Startup Knox podcast that tells a lot of early stage technology startup stories is on Spotify. So there's the link if you're into a podcast. That is a big focus for Spotify these days, powered by Google Cloud. It's my pleasure to welcome Alberto Arechiga, Enterprise Account Executive with Google Cloud Platform, to join us here. A big thanks to Google again for sponsoring. Alberto works with industry leaders throughout our region to implement cloud-based solutions, enabling them to be proactive problem solvers, transform their IT organizations from a cost center to a profit center. He's a presidential award winner. He provides a consultative approach to reduce complexity of IT. And perhaps most importantly, he has Texas roots. And so when I got to meet Alberto several weeks ago, when he came to Knoxville, we were trading some stories about San Antonio. And anyway, it turns out that Alberto was a football referee for about 25 years. So I know there's a lot of football fans in the audience today. If you have questions for Alberto, let him know. He was the referee in the movie that many of you have seen called Varsity Blues. So he does the first touchdown scene in that movie, which is pretty great. This was some time ago. My wife was actually extra in the stands that day while Alberto was on the field as the referee. So it's a small world. Alberto, we're thrilled that you're here. Thanks again for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. We've got such a warm reception from everybody here there at the Knoxville Technology Council. So Google's happy to be here, and I'm happy to be here as well. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So let's kick off. I know people are familiar from the invite to the event. Google Cloud Platform, fastest growing cloud platform out there. How is it similar and different from other cloud platform offerings?
You know, it's a different. We are the fastest growing cloud at this point in time, and we've grown 45% year over year. So it's really been exciting as far as the growth is concerned, and how we sort of differentiate ourselves, Brandon, more than anybody else, is how we feel about security. Since we manage about 25% of the internet's traffic, we get to see threats before they actually happen. And having over 1 billion users with Gmail, if anybody has a Gmail account out there, 99.9% of the spam is already filtered out before you actually get it. So security is one of the big factors. The other thing that people don't realize is Google Cloud is the third largest producer of servers in the world, and we're our only client. And the reason being for that is the security factor within servers, and we all know about the Intel chip breach in the past. So security is one thing. So any questions about that?
Yeah, I was going to remind everybody, as you have Q&A for Alberto and about Google Cloud Platform in general, please do pop it in as we go, and we'll get to those. You know, one of the things that I know we want to talk about, and I can show some slides, but more likely we'll circulate some slides to everybody afterwards that might want to check them out. But let's talk about Google's economic impact in Tennessee. So a lot of folks have followed the news, right? Big data center that you all built, several $100 million over the past couple of years. But overall, I mean, economic impact in Tennessee is massive. $3.75 billion of economic activity, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars procured from local businesses. One of the stats that I found most interesting on the deck that you had sent me before is almost $4.5 million of free advertising to nonprofits. So I'd love to hear your take on that. And also, of course, you know, 350 plus Tennesseans are employed full time by Google, and you all continue to grow. So yeah, I'd love to talk about the employee side, but also the giving back that's really kind of baked into Google's business model.
And that's the thing, and I appreciate you bringing that out. At Google, we can provide the greatest technologies that we feel, but if they're not impacting and helping people, we don't feel like we're doing our job properly. So although Google Cloud's new to the Eastern Tennessee area, we have provided about $4 billion worth of economic activity. and about $327,000 worth of services from local businesses have been procured. And we're really big on community and helping out. So with that being said, $4.4 million worth has been provided to nonprofits to go ahead and try to go ahead and help with that. And there's about 350 Tennesseans employed and growing within the state. So it's there's one thing that I'd like to go ahead and just provide a quote about from our CEO. Sundar Pichai, basically he's talking about people, and as technologists, I think we have a responsibility towards people and helping people with that technology. But his quote is, "I remain a technology optimist, not because I believe in technology, but because I believe in people." So that's very important, and community is very important to us as well.
Yeah, it's a great quote. I mean, and I enjoyed when you first came to Knoxville for our meeting, going on, I guess, about a month ago. And it's like, what did we do and talk about in that meeting? It was kind of a walking coffee, and we visited Boys and Girls Club, and we talked about Project Grad, and we talked about educational certifications. So it was pretty neat that's where we went right away in the conversation. Now, a lot of the people that are employed by Google, I mean, you're statewide, obviously, but a lot are in that data center. It's in Clarksville, $600 million data center. So huge investment, obviously, in the state, in the region. Are there plans for that type of thing in the future? I mean, it seems like, as we just heard from Verizon, right, everything's getting closer and closer. So having the fact that you all have a data center here in Tennessee is pretty great news.
Yeah, the $600 million invested in one of the most modern data centers in the world there in Clarksville, that employed about 1,000 construction workers. And, as Google grows, we definitely look at that in the future, as far as more data centers and whatnot. And that plant also is 100% renewable energy. So it's something, the environment's something that's obviously very important to Google also. So thanks for.
Absolutely. We're in TVA country here, so that's great news, right? There's a big focus on renewable energy by TVA, and you guys are leading in that. Here's, I think, an interesting and important question. So Google Cloud under the larger Google umbrella and under Alphabet, how does the Google Cloud kind of benefit from being part of this larger company, Alphabet?
Yeah, sure thing. So once again, handling about 25% of the internet's traffic. People have used, obviously, Google search is the leading search engine out there. YouTube, is the second leading search engine out there. It's another Alphabet type of company. Google Drive, Gmail, Maps, Photos, Google Play, operating systems such as Chrome and Android. If you think about all of the data and analytics that we can gather from that, and going back to the sort of the security option and seeing threats before they happen, that's something that we utilize within our technologies and pass along to our clients as well. So having that whole umbrella of Google brings out sort of the best of everything. The data and analytics, the artificial intelligence you can gather from that, and the machine learning. So it's a really neat innovation. And then we sort of give that to different verticals within retail and healthcare, financial services, media, different industries go ahead and can take advantage of all of those things and our experiences from the past as well.
So one of the stories that I enjoy, because it takes me back, my first job out of college over 20 years ago was at a high-speed networking company, and we had a data center. I lived the closest to the data center, so I was responsible. If the power went out, I'd have to run down there and put gas in the generator and start it up, right? So this goes to show kind of, how long ago that was. It wouldn't happen that way anymore.
I'll make sure and tell them out in Clarksville you can do that for them.
Yeah, but back then it was the conventional wisdom, and it's still largely accepted now, that if you have a file that's very large or something that's very complex to do, you do it locally. And if you don't need something for a little while, or you're okay with it taking a little longer, you can put it somewhere else on a server. Now we would say in the cloud. But then I remember when I took a tour of discovery, and this was a couple of years ago, and we were taking a tour, and they said, well, we moved a lot of stuff to the cloud. And I said, well, I bet you're keeping a lot of the video local for editing and stuff like that. And they said, no, it's actually, in many respects, the opposite. Like, we put all the video in Google Cloud, we ran some benchmarks, and it's faster in the cloud than it is if we've got the server in the room next to the workstation. And I was amazed by that. And they went into basically how important the algorithms were. So this gets into kind of the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, the algorithms that Google has built. I feel like a lot of the articles I read about Google Cloud Platform focuses on that. That's kind of the machine learning and AI that's built in at a foundational layer. I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit more about sort of what that means. Why do people like Discovery? Why do people like Spotify choose Google for that reason?
Sure thing. You know, and that was really great. I mean, I think one of the quotes in the video was, you know, linking up a million creators with 1 billion users. You know, to be able to scale and figure out, you know, how to get that information out. That's something that we optimize as far as that's concerned. Innovation faster, you know, and it's because it's of the embedded AI and ML. And earlier you asked me, you know, what the differentiators were, and that's one of the others as well. I'm sorry I didn't get to complete that one, but you know, with AI and ML, we're seeing some really wonderful things. You know, in healthcare, you know, seeing, you know, helping out and helping doctors see, say, cancer before it actually, you know, helping them go ahead and speed up those processes to go ahead and try to save lives. You know, retail organizations are figuring out new and better ways to do things through machine learnings and save time and innovate and do different things. Using those data and analytics, I mean, that's something that we're going to see more of in the future. That's basically where I see Eastern Tennessee and Knoxville and you know, and in general, where we're seeing the benefit and why Google Cloud's becoming so popular as far as that's concerned. And then the other thing is, you know, it's you don't have to have data scientists on staff to go ahead and utilize some of these reporting, some of these, you know, serverless type solutions that we have. So ease of use is another differentiator that we have as far as being able to go ahead and help out and figure out some of these complexities that educational institutions, government institutions, and corporations have also. So having that ability to go ahead and have a solid foundation for serverless computing, and then you could just let developers code. You know, when all this is already set up for them, they can go ahead and run with what they have and do, as the gentleman mentioned in the video, Spotify type things, rather than worry about infrastructure, worry about other tools and being slowed down. So those are just some of the things that you could do. Brandon, one thing I didn't mention that we also differentiate ourselves by is we're open source. So if you have we understand that nowadays it's a hybrid multi-cloud world. So you may have a combination of different technologies, and we're able to go ahead and work with different technologies. We accept that. Those are some things that we plan for. So we don't want anything to be, you don't want to have to be locked into a certain technology. You can use what's best in breed for you as well. So
one of the questions that came in on the Q&A, and I love this question because I'm curious about it too. Like, there's been so much attention to people moving to work from home, school from home. So have you all seen on the Google side kind of an uptick in cloud usage during 2020 from the inception of pandemic through today?
Definitely. I mean, that's something. It's something that if you look at it, the you know, as far as growth is concerned, work from home, you know, that sort of took us all by surprise, and the scalability of the cloud really came to fruition, if you will, once the pandemic came in. So we did certain things, like, you know, if people had a Gmail account, we made Meet. You know, once again, going back to the technology and people thing, we went ahead and made Gmeet accessible to our clients at no cost for a while to go ahead and help out during the pandemic and whatnot too. So there's been a huge explosion as far as that's concerned, and services at home. So definitely.
Cool. Question from Chris Meistrick at JTV. What's the best way for companies who want to explore a future path in sort of digital strategy to get hooked up with the right people at Google to talk about what's possible, what's next?
Yeah, I can definitely link you up, and I think that's a wonderful point. I mean, each company's cloud journey is different as far as that's concerned. So you definitely have to figure out what applications are ready for the cloud. What applications do we have to adapt to get to the cloud, and are these applications still relevant to our future technologies? So setting up a strategy session, we can definitely go ahead and I find the right individual who works with your organization there at JTV and to help out with that. So
perfect. Here's a question that sort of scratches my law school itch, and I'm a California kid. So what changes do you see the California Consumer Privacy Act bringing to Google Cloud? Maybe it's already all baked in, but have there been any changes recently that the cloud in general needs to adapt to?
I haven't got any guidance on that, to be quite honest with you. Or I'm not really familiar with that particular aspect of it. So, I want to defer that to somebody within our organization. I can go ahead and take that question and come back to that one.
We'll take it offline. Great question, and we'll get back on that one. Question about AI. So Google has the responsible AI team. What other steps in addition to that is Google taking to kind of ensure that AI remains ethical? Right. Yeah. So we actually have, that's a wonderful question. Thank you for bringing that up. So we actually have a board internally. So if I have a client who has an AI use case, I have to take it before the board and make certain that it is being utilized not to harm anyone. In a case like the Jedi contract, for example, we didn't participate in that bid because what we see are, as far as helping people, we won't create technologies that will harm anyone as far as that's concerned. So we actually have different levels that it has to go through to make sure that this is approved, where we can go ahead and work and move forward with AI and ML to make sure that those technologies are being used in a humane and beneficial manner, if you will. And then here's a question that goes to kind of the beginning of the pandemic. How was Google able to handle the influx of customers and workloads? In other words, how did it scale? Were there any hiccups in that process? Or was there ample capacity, or has it been kind of around the clock? Let's keep adding more capacity. The scaling part was, fortunately, having nine different services and websites that handle over 1 billion customers. We were able to go ahead and scale quite nicely as far as that's concerned. So it's sort of having that experience and handling 25% of the internet's traffic, going ahead and distributing that, we didn't see any major challenges, fortunately. And we're able to go ahead and help where we could. Obviously, we couldn't go ahead and offer, 1 billion, Google Meet, free offerings, if you will. If we weren't able to go ahead and scale, we were able to go ahead and do that. So fortunately, we've got the compute down pretty good so far. Awesome. It'll be from me. So I kind of want to finish on the topic of education, which you and I have talked about a lot already. But, this is something, we partnered with Google Cloud Hero for just an amazing event at UT, where students competed to become the Cloud Hero and basically achieve missions online, right, in the cloud. Now every student in Knox County schools has a Chromebook, right? So there's a massive deployment across 60,000 schools this year to make sure everyone had access and could do homework from home or attend school from home as desired or needed. So that's a big deal. I think one of the exciting things that you all are doing now is the Grow with Google, which has to do with career certifications. The first one is live now, the Google IT Support Professional. You guys have been working with lots of partners, I think 130 statewide, to train 5,000 Tennesseans on digital skills. We're looking at local partnerships with many organizations. You've already contributed $3.5 million to community colleges for that certificate. You've got 3 more certificates in the works that I think are slated to come out later this year, maybe early next year. But I think it's an exciting thing here locally to think about these educational pathways for students of all ages, right?
Right.
So maybe explain to us a little more to the extent that you know, sort of what's Google's pathway look like in this area, because it's been committed to education for a long time.
And thank you for bringing this up. I mean, this is a big passion, something that makes me extremely happy. And it's just beginning. You know, if there is a nonprofit that provides training, please contact Google Grow with Google. Excuse me. It's basically a course or different courses where certifications are given, basically after these certifications put people in the workforce. From my understanding, the average salary is about $55,000. So giving digital training to individuals who sometimes don't have the ability to go ahead and have that training. That's something that we're working with locally at the Boys Club. It's great, you know. Thank you for introducing me to Bart McFadden. And just for a moment, I'd like to thank you. And I think the Knoxville Technology Council should be happy about you, you know, the work that you've done and the passion you've shown for the community. So thanks once again. Sure thing. Yeah, man. You know, we've got 18 locations at the Boys and Girls Club of the Tennessee Valley that we're working with right now. They're going to add 2 more next year, so I'm working with that team. I've got a project manager working with them on spreading that program. And next week we're talking to Project Grad and Goodwill Industries with that organization. And you know, everything from coding with kids to, like I said, to mainstream, helping out, bring more technology and you know, individuals that are into technology there in the Knoxville area. That's our goal here. So it's a wonderful thing. We're just getting started. Something I have a passion about and really want to help the community out with as well. So
it's going to be exciting 2021. Your colleague Narav posted the link into the chat. So it's grow.google, pretty cool domain name. So check it out if you're interested in these professional career certificates, which I think is a wave of the future, right? The head of global HR for Google kind of telegraphed that as a hiring practice, Google would treat these with similar weight as a degree. And right. So imagine the power that students have coming out of school with a degree and a career certificate, and the options that they'll have to have great careers. So Alberto, thanks a ton for being here at the event and presenting.
Excellent. I look forward to speaking to people in the Q&A. Have a great day, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you. And next up, everybody, we have 2 more fantastic speakers. The first one, John McNeely, runs a company here locally that many of you have heard of called Avertium. They do cybersecurity. It used to be known as Sword and Shield. Now it's Avertium. And he's also the president of the KTech board. So join me in welcoming John. John, come on up and please provide us with the president's update.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. Let me get some sharing going on here. One second. There we go. So good afternoon, everybody. Just want to say thank you for attending today. I want to say thank you to Verizon and Google for sponsoring. Echo the sentiments that Brandon shared earlier about our sponsors. And Majid and Alberto, just some great information, great insights this afternoon. Thank you for that. I've already been taking some notes and learning a lot just from these sessions. So as we're kind of getting to the end of our session today, I just want to take a few minutes and give you some updates and highlights from 2020 and share a glimpse into 2021 for KTech activity. And I want to start also with the board and acknowledging our board members. So the list you see on the screen here is board members for 2020 and also going into 2021. And I just can't say enough about these people and the work that they do. Very hardworking. They're giving their time and energy, because this is an all volunteer effort. They're giving their time and energy to KTech and working really hard for the community. And as we've talked, you've heard about some of the events already and other things that are happening, and I'll share a little bit more. And all these individuals are just instrumental in making KTech successful. So I would ask for kind of some virtual applause. I know we're not in the same room, but just a round of applause for these people doing great stuff for the Knoxville technology community. So the KTech mission is to connect, develop, and promote and advocate for the technology industry in the Greater Knoxville region. I think over 2020 and really our first year, connecting and developing have been the two key areas. But I wanted to share this, and this information is also available on our website, knoxtech.org. But this is our mission, and we identified these 4 pillars very early on as we were creating KTech, and we feel like that with these 4 pillars and this mission, it kind of gives us our compass. It's our true north of what we need to do and how we need to go about doing it. And with these 4 pillars, I feel like if we're successful in these areas, then we're successful in giving a collective voice to the technology community here in the Knoxville region. So with that as our backdrop, that is our mission. Looking at the past year, the first year for full year for KTech and activities, I think 3 themes come out of this. There's growth, collaboration, and engagement are the 3 things that I tend to see when I'm looking back. And we look at growth. We started really with a handful of companies in 2018 and really getting the concept going. When we got to our launch, we had more on board. So we had 16 founding member companies on board. And now fast forward to where we are at this point in time, and we're up to 82 members. And that's across 20 founding members now and other member categories, but just really pleased to see the growth and companies and individuals buying into the mission of KTech and then joining in. So really happy to see that growth and hope to see that continue, especially with the 2020 that we've had. It wasn't as planned dealing with the pandemic, but a lot of pivoting, a lot of navigating as we've all had to do. So really glad to see that growth. 32 events. You saw the hype video earlier on that highlighted some of these events, but since launch, that's a lot of activity, 32 events. So glad to see that growth, and we're certainly planning for more. We've also had a lot of traction and success around collaboration, and what I mean by that is working with other groups in the area, like Innovate 65 and KEC, which are partnering with us today on this event. Knox Devs, UT Research Park, the Knoxville Chamber, and there's many others. But really great collaboration and working with these groups and understanding what KTech is about and the role that we can play with them and collaborate in this area. With KTech now in existence, we're able to collaborate with other tech councils across the state, Chattanooga, Memphis, Nashville. And I can tell you they're all happy to see that Knoxville has a technology council. So part of our conversations with their leadership now are about things that we can do jointly together across the state. And so that's one of the 2021 things, is looking for more things there that we're doing in a collaborative effort. And I would also say working with the technology councils across the country through an organization called the Technology Councils of North America. Great organization that's really helped us as we've begun to put this organization together and to grow. They've been a valuable resource for us, but also gives us access into other major metro areas and tech councils across the country. And so we're looking to do more collaboration there as well moving forward. So thirdly, engagement. None of this works if we can't get the engagement right. But we are seeing the engagement. We are seeing more organizations reaching out to us for input on technology matters, being a source for them, which is great to see. We're seeing just through the course of events and learning sessions that we have that we are connecting technology professionals at all levels in their organization in the Knoxville region, from executives to a lot of the frontline workers, tech workers, and other functional areas too, in HR and sales and so forth. But it's really great to see that level of engagement around technology topics and issues. And we're also seeing great input. So from our member community and others outside of that, just the inflow of ideas and input on having a council like this and the things that we can do. We're getting a lot of ideas, so keep those coming. Really like to see that. So what's ahead? Just a snapshot here, not just a ton of detail, but we are going to look at mixing things up a little bit in 2021 based on a lot of member feedback and people who have attended events. The events have been very successful, but we're going to create multiple streams here. It's kind of the figuring out how to walk and chew gum at the same time. But we are looking at doing bigger quarterly events. So big idea events, signature series events. So that is something to look forward to. When we can gather, we'll get back to doing social networking events. We have done those virtually. And I think if you're like me, for many of you, that's just getting a little bit fatigued, right? So we are looking forward to doing the live in-person networking events when we can do that. And as we do that, we'll also bring back some of the VIP tours that we had started. Technology deep dives. We are a tech council, so we want to go deeper into technologies of interest. And so looking forward to that. And I think a big one for the next year and coming up are our peer forums. Something on our strategic plan, just didn't get to implement that this year. One of those things that we had to postpone due to COVID, but something that we want to get back in place, get back on track for 2021. And through these peer groups, through these forums, just a great experience sharing, learning together with your peers. And so we are looking at a CIO or technology executive type of peer group, and also wanting a CISOs for cybersecurity are the two areas that we would look to start in. And then certifications. It's already been discussed some. Brandon and Alberto discussed what Google's doing around certifications with the community. But we see that in the community and the workforce development, which tends to be one of the biggest things that the companies talk about, what they'd like to see better and develop. We do see a need for some more focus and purpose behind certification programs through partnerships, discounts, special programs for the talent workforce that we have here in the region. So that's some of what's ahead. What's needed is you. KTech doesn't work without you, doesn't work without people really engaging and joining in. And so you can join in through company memberships, invest in the mission, like I just talked about. Certainly attend and engage in the events and learning sessions that we have. Give us that feedback. Let us know what you'd like to hear more of and less of. And as we do roll out some new peer groups and different communities of interest, we hope that you'll join in with that and participate. So if 2020 was a good year, all things considered, we know that the things we're putting together and the board is working on, and all of the KTech team, 2021 is going to be even better. So thank you. And Brandon, I'll turn things back over to you.
There we go. Thanks a ton, John. And stories that we like to tell is that I had a meeting with John in his office a couple of years ago, and I said, hey, I think we should do a Knoxville Technology Council, right? There's a tech council in Nashville and Memphis and Chattanooga. We don't have one here yet. It would be awesome. We're such a strong tech community. I'd love to talk with you about it. And he said, man, I've been thinking the exact same thing. Let's work on it together. So here we are a couple of years later, and tremendous momentum like John just described, and some great plans for 2021. So I'll echo where John left off, which is to say, if you have interest in those things, if you want to get involved, please do reach out and let us know. Go to knoxtech.org, to the contact us page, hit us up there, hit us at admin@knoxtech.org, or my email is brandon@knoxtech.org, and say, hey, you mentioned tech talks. I would like to give a tech talk on Kubernetes or Agile or cloud or whatever your area of expertise. Or I would like to join a peer group for CIOs, CTOs, CISOs, directors of HR, heads of engineering, whatever your interest is. Or even better, I would like to help lead one of those groups and really provide some momentum for getting these peer groups off the ground. And lastly, for certifications, right? If there's certifications that your company specifically values, please let us know so that we can focus on some of those. If you think you could be a mentor for folks K through 12 or college or post-college that are working to achieve their career aspirations by earning a certification, that would be great. If you're working on earning one now, I know Jason posted in the chat earlier that he's knocking out Google certifications. So, please let us know those things and we can tailor the programs to meet our members where they are. So thanks, John, for the great update. It's my pleasure to introduce Steph Flood now. She's a KTech board member as well. She's the CIO of Clayton Homes and has provided tremendous energy and leadership in launching one of KTech's most successful initiatives of 2019 and 2020, Women in Tech. So Steph, welcome up, and please give us the update, share the good news.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brandon. Hey, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well this afternoon. I feel like I'm between you guys and networking and the end of the day, so probably potentially a glass of wine or a beer. So I'll try to be pretty quick, but I am really excited to talk to you guys about one of my favorite topics, which is women in technology, more broadly, really diversity and inclusion. So, when I think about women in tech, there's two questions that I'm typically asked pretty regularly. One, what is it? And two, why is women in tech needed? So I'm going to start really briefly, and I'll try not to bore you to talk a little bit about why is it needed. So we'll go ahead and move forward. If I can get my mouse up. All right. Here we go. So I think everyone knows that diversity is critical, right? For a lot of reasons. As technologists, it's important that we think about diversity of thought and diversity of solutions and the products that we create because our customers are diverse, right? Additionally, many of you have probably seen that McKinsey has done a lot of studies on diversity, and they have proven time and time again that companies that are more diverse actually perform better and have higher retention and more engaged employees. But despite this, it's pretty surprising to see that women continue to remain very underrepresented in the technology space. So I promise try not to bore you guys, but I did put up two graphs that I thought were pretty interesting. So the one on the left talks about the percentage of women in professional occupational categories. So the blue line shows where women stand today. So you can see that greater than 50% of professionals are women. So we are represented in the professional workforce. What's very interesting, though, is if you look at that yellow-orange line, the females that are in the computer and math occupations are less than a quarter, or about a quarter. So we're still pretty low, and I wanted to go ahead and provide that green line. That's really the education, training type of roles. We still see a very high percentage of women in those type of roles. On the right, what I found interesting here, this talks about the types of roles that women are in technology. And you see that we're seeing some trends down on a few roles. So operations analysts, DBAs, and programmers, you're seeing that where we stayed pretty steady or even saw some growth for many years, we're starting to see a decline over the last couple of years. We are still continuing to see an increase for computer scientists and systems analysts. And while hardware engineers are the lowest represented role for females, we are starting to see some growth over the last few years there. So the reason I show you that is because this is a key reason on why WIT is important. So when we think about WIT is not just a Knoxville thing. Women in tech is not just Knoxville. There are women in tech organizations across the country and across the world. And why? It's a peer group. So Brandon and John just talked a lot about peer groups and the importance of peer groups. Why do we need peer groups? Because we want to connect with people that understand what we're going through, that are on potentially the same life journey as us, have the same challenges. They want to grow in the same way. So that's what we wanted to provide with WIT. We really want to connect people, and this is people that advocate and support and believe in women in technology. So a lot of times people see women in technology and they assume it's only for women. We really want to encourage women supporters and women advocates to come with us on the journey and join our peer group in WIT. As far as what we provide via our WIT group, it's 3 key pillars. So the first one is networking. So we really want to provide opportunities for these women and for advocates of women to come together and get to know each other. When we think about the different perspectives that we all bring to any engagement, so we all have different backgrounds, we have different educations, we're from different industries, we solve problems differently. So that's where networking can be huge for us. We can talk about what are we trying to solve for, what are our problems, and we can help each other think about how to solution differently or how to grow differently. And that brings us to our second pillar, which is education. We strongly believe in continuing to grow as technologists. I think all of us can agree with that. So through our education pillar, we provide a wide range of different learning opportunities, whether that's kind of business focused or life focused. Work-life balance is huge to all of us. A couple people have mentioned throughout today's presentation, work from home is new and different from us. How do we behave differently? How do we learn to work and collaborate and support our teams in that environment? Within our learning pillar, we also encourage training and teaching of our members to members. So when we show you our recap of this year, you'll see a lot of our events have been led and driven by WIT members training others. Our third pillar is community outreach. So unfortunately, we didn't do a whole lot of community outreach in 2020. We do tend to make this a core focus of WIT. And for that, we want to get the community around us, have a lot of skills, technical skills that we can bring to our community. We have time and effort that we can put towards different activities. So we want to definitely make that a focus. So with this in mind, I'll talk to you guys a little bit, show you a brief recap of what 2020 looked like. So we did launch, if you guys were here when the video played, we did launch a Women in Tech with a happy hour at the Chop House in February. It was in person. It's hard to remember those days, but it was overwhelming and exciting. We had a lot of people support and attend, really more than we ever could have anticipated. So it really helped to solidify the desire and the need for this group in the Knoxville area. So that was just amazing and so cool to see. So after we got over the initial shock of March and COVID, we did ramp up some virtual activities for WIT as well, similar to how John and Brandon described them for all of KTech. We focused primarily on educational workshops and happy hours. So you see our first couple of events were happy hours, a lot of trying to figure out how to work at home with your kiddos, learning next to you, how to stay engaged and connected to your teams. So those were a lot of our focuses. And then during the summer months, kind of May, July, we really focused on image and branding. And the reason for that is we did see that, companies were having to pull back, and we saw the impacts of COVID on unemployment. So we wanted to make sure that we provided those skills and those learning opportunities to our members. And then again, we wrapped up the year, we did another happy hour, and then our last event for 2020 was an ethics and security program, which was very well attended. It was very exciting. That was taught by Christine Jones, who is one of our WIT committee members. So that was really cool to see. Also in 2020, we really have been trying to focus on social media. So the numbers that you see for followers on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, we're not, Jennifer Aniston, or there's probably a lot more popular people that are younger people would align to, but we're still growing. We're excited that we're continuing to ramp up the number of followers in all of our social media. We're going to continue to use those outlets to share information, not just about our events, but what are other WIT organizations doing around the country? What are interesting things and trends that we're seeing in the industry around us that we could share via social media? So we're excited to see that continue to ramp up. In 2021, our approach is going to be very similar. So we want to continue monthly activities. We are planning to kick off in January with our first activity of the year. And they're going to look, like I said, they're going to look similar. We're going to be continuing to do our networking happy hours. But typically when we do a networking happy hour, it's beyond just sitting at a table and chatting. We want to really focus next year on bringing key topics to light. And then helping, create starter questions for good networking conversations at different networking tables. So examples there, like I mentioned earlier, work-life balance. But we really, diversity and inclusion is huge. How to voice your opinion, wellness, there's a lot of different topics there. And moving on to our, on opposite months, we'll be doing more of our educational workshops. And we're really, really excited to be collaborating with Women in Tech Tennessee, which is Middle Tennessee, primarily Nashville, also has a Women in Tech group. So we're going to be working with them to create a series of events, or a series of workshops, focused on coaching, leadership, and team development. And so we think that's going to bring a lot of really great information and also give us opportunities to network on a wider scale to see what people are doing across the state of Tennessee. And then third, like I mentioned, we really want to get ramped up with the community. So we're going to identify one or more organizations within Knoxville that we can provide education, mentoring, or just time really to help those organizations in the best way possible with the skills that we have to offer. So 2021 is sure to be a great year. And so how I'm going to wrap is similar to John's. It's with an ask. Please join us. When we had our first event, our launch event, the committee kind of sat in the middle of the room for a minute before everyone joined, and we said, our goal is that there should be no wallflowers. You're welcome. Everybody is welcome to join WIT. You have a voice. We want to hear your voice. We're eager to hear your voice because we know that you have a lot to share with us. So we would love to see you next year. Lots of ways to find out information either about Women in Tech or upcoming events. They're listed here. You can go to the KTech website where we have a Women in Tech page. You can go to our LinkedIn page, our Facebook account, or our Instagram account. I'm really looking forward to seeing you next year. Grab a friend, join us, and we'll see you soon. Brandon is on his way.
There we go. I'm back. Took a minute. Thanks, Steph. Super exciting. There were a couple questions in the Q&A. I posted the link into the chat, so it's a link straight to the Women in Tech page on knoxtech.org. For social media, definitely jump to any of those channels, do a quick search for Knoxville Technology Council, Women in Tech, KTech Women in Tech. You'll find us there. We can also get those circulated to everybody in an email after. Yeah, I look forward to getting everybody involved. Jameson posted a question. Lives here in Knoxville, Knox County. Company is headquartered out of the state. Can the company still join KTech? Yes, absolutely. In fact, a number of the companies that have joined Knoxville Technology are headquartered out of the area that have significant presence here, or they have a sales team here, or an engineering team, or a satellite office. So, we welcome with open arms. The more the merrier. Everyone's a participant in KTech. So thanks for the question, and we hope to have you all aboard. Bruce, to your question, it's a fantastic question. So, personal goal, we want what's best for our kids, our daughters, and our sons. How do we teach them the most possible about computers, get them interested in coding, kind of explore their interests in whatever it might be. Could be analytics, could be databases, could be coding, could be creative arts in support of that. There are a number of resources actually that our web team has put together on the website. So we actually posted that kind of as part of our pandemic initiative. Is here are a lot of resources for school-age students to engage with technology online. So lesson plans, access to various websites, some off the top of my head that I've enjoyed. We broke the Guinness World Record for coding in Knox County schools back in 2017 using a platform developed out of MIT called Scratch. So I highly recommend Scratch. Code.org, and we're right on the eve of Day of Code. And so check out code.org, some fantastic lessons there. They serve literally hundreds of millions around the world through their platform. So those are a couple, and there's obviously hundreds of others. But yeah, I always like to say it's a lot of fun to code with your kids or go into schools and do some volunteering, because the creativity is off the charts. And at the end of the day, we all learn more from them than they learn from us. They're already way ahead of us, I think, in tech in general. Let me just say thank you to everybody for coming. Huge thanks to the Innovate 6.5 Alliance, to the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center for partnering with us on this event, to Verizon and Google Cloud for sponsoring, to the entire KTech team, to Holly Holloway and Holloway Event Co. For putting all this together, for Alex and the team at Lunchpool for making this such a great platform. We're now going to go into that platform and enjoy some networking time together. So stick around, please, if you're able. See some friends, meet some new friends, and yeah, let us know all of your feedback, and hopefully you're excited about getting involved here through the end of the year with our remaining 2 events. Get tickets at knoxtech.org, and also for our big initiatives in 2021. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. We look forward to seeing you here in the next 60 days and then in the new year. In the meantime, stay healthy, and we'll see you at the networking tables. Thanks.